Hi there, this is Mr. Evans. This video looks at the diversification element of Ansoff's matrix, and it's the final one of Ansoff's strategies that we have to look at. I've been through all of them and had a look at the reasons for choosing and the value of these different options for strategic direction. So, as I've been trying to get across throughout these 4 videos on Ansoff's matrix, 4 or 5 videos on Ansoff's matrix, Ansoff was concerned with the level of risk of a strategy. And according to Ansoff, there are 4 ways in which you could grow your business, and each strategy has a different risk associated with it, a different level of risk associated with it. Selling more of your existing products to your existing market was market penetration, and we decided that was the lowest risk because we already know these customers, we've already got a relationship with these customers, and we already know these products. We already sell them, they exist. Market development and product development are the next level up in terms of riskiness, because you're either dealing with customers that you don't know, that you don't have a relationship with, that you need to go out and advertise to and find, or you're developing new products, which, as we've looked at, can be a very expensive process and a risky process. The riskiest of the strategies in Ansoff's matrix is following a strategy of diversification, where you are selling new products, of course, to new customers and new markets. So a very high risk strategy, because we need to develop products to appeal to customers that we don't really have an existing relationship with, that we don't know. So we could define diversification as the strategy of achieving growth through targeting new customers with new products, or entering new markets, and examples of these strategies in terms of the product. We're going to need to do a lot of market research. We're going to have to find out who the competitors are. We're going to have to find out what our customers want. We're going to have to do a lot of R&D stuff. We may find that we are using copycat products, copying products that already exist in those markets and trying to make them even more successful. Or we might be transferring a core competence into a new use. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look at a company like Dyson or Apple, those companies tend to have a core competence of design. Now, Dyson have moved from hoovers to hand dryers to fans, and now into electric cars. So, you could argue that there's some similarity between those products and markets, but that is a strategy of diversification, and what they've done is they've taken their core competence of being really good at design and spread that, taken that into new markets and new areas. The pricing strategy will depend on the objectives of the company. It's very difficult to tell what you do with pricing. Would you do premium pricing? Would you set a low price? It would depend on your objectives. In terms of promotion, we're going to need to be doing informative promotion using PR. Virgin are a great example of a company that use PR really well. Richard Branson and all his kind of stunts and antics that are used to promote products, and Virgin's a great example of a brand that has done massive diversification. They started off as a record company, and they've got into transatlantic flights. They're in banking, they're in gyms, internet provider, all sorts of businesses that Virgin are in. They're a really good example of what we call a conglomerate, and they've followed a strategy of diversification. And in terms of place, well, if we're selling new products to customers we don't know, we're going to need to find some new distribution channels, ways of reaching our new target market. So, if it's such a high-risk strategy, then why do businesses bother following a strategy of diversification? Well, the organisation may have a core competence that they believe can be successful in a new market. There's an excellent interview with Tim Ferriss and Richard Branson. It's fairly recent. I'm recording this in October 2017. I'll try and link it to the video, but in it, Richard Branson talked, well, what was the similarities between the record business, which Virgin were in, and transatlantic flights? Well, to me, there didn't seem to be that much correlation, but Richard Branson said, well, actually, people who are sat on a plane for 8 hours want to be entertained, and Virgin were really good at entertaining people, and that was the kind of core competence that they were able to bring across those two different organisations. These days, I'd also say Virgin have got a reputation for great customer service, which is, a core competence that can go across, of course, many industries. So, strong reason for diversification. If the organisation has got a successful track record, a core competence that they believe can be successful in a new market with a new product. If the organisation has a trusted brand image that's transferable, so a lot of the supermarkets have got into kind of banking and mobile phones, and the reason is that people have a relatively high trust of those organisations. Same with Virgin, there's a strong brand image that's transferable across different products. Maybe there's a lack of opportunities or high levels of competition in the current market, in which case the organisation wants to look outside that current market and get into new markets. Nokia is a great example of a phone that they are now obviously associated with phones, but they've been involved in, I believe, rubber, paper, tyres in the past. So, quite slow growing markets, and then they saw an opportunity to get into the mobile phone market, make more profit, and they did so. Diversification is also a method of spreading risk. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're in one industry and that industry suffers a decline or a downturn, you've got more revenue coming in from other areas. The more, it's like that phrase of saying having all your eggs in one basket. If you're just involved in one industry in one place, then that industry, if something happens, can be it can put your business, send your business into liquidation. If you're selling to multiple different clients, consumers in multiple different markets, you're more likely to be able to ride out a downturn in one market because another market will be growing. Diversification is a necessity for vertical integration. If you're not sure what vertical integration is, there'll be a video on it shortly, but have a look. It's where you take over another business in the same supply chain as you. So, for example, an oil company overtaking petrol stations. Well, there's very different customers and it's a different product. So that is diversification, and it's a reason, vertical integration is a reason that you would have to diversify. Finally, many businesses are ambitious and want to grow, and this is a good way of achieving growth. So the value of diversification, following on from that final point, it creates opportunities for growth. We're spreading risk, and it can enhance your brand image if you can successfully compete in several markets. However, it's the highest risk strategies we've spoken about. It's likely to be very expensive and require extensive investment in market research and development and promotion. And it could dilute or damage the brand image if it's unsuccessful. So Virgin, maybe 10 or 15 years ago now, tried to launch Virgin Cola and were doing quite well in the UK market, and then went over to the US market, and it really didn't work, and that could potentially have been damaging for the Virgin brand. I'm not sure that it was in the end, but they weren't successful in that adventure in the end, and maybe that could have been damaging to the brand image potentially. So that's the final video on Ansoff's matrix. Remember, all concerned with the risk of these different strategies to achieve growth. Which is the riskiest? When we're using Ansoff's matrix in an essay, it's good to identify the strategy on Ansoff's matrix that the business is using, or what it's hinting at using, and talking about the risks associated with each of those strategies.